Good, yo. Welcome back to Niner Wire. I'm your host, Sam, and today we are here for the fifth and final episode of Offseason Positional Preview. This one, we're doing tight ends and offensive linemen. Offensive linemen specifically is a group that I have looked at a lot, so I'm very excited to share my thoughts on this offseason for the offensive linemen. Same with tight ends. I haven't looked at tight ends as much, but offensive linemen, that's been my sweet spot this offseason, looking at what we can do to improve that. So I'm excited to share, but I'm bringing someone in today who's really good at looking at what the tight ends have, what our tight end room looks like. Who could we replace at tight end? Who could we bring in? And that's Joseph right here. Joseph, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. But guys, we're going to be talking about kind of like the normal stuff, kind of what we always been doing. We've been talking about what we need on this team, who we currently have as free agents, what the free agency class is looking like overall in the NFL, and what we can add in the draft. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. Same as usual. Let's get right into it. But before we do, make sure to follow me on Twitter at NinerWireSam. My Instagram is at NinerWire_YT. And if you're watching on Twitter, make sure to retweet this and subscribe to NinerWire. Do whatever you can. I post a lot of stuff on NinerWire, so make sure to check that out if you're on Twitter right now watching on Periscope. Also, guys, make sure to tune in to Talking Niners with me and Kobe. Kobe was on the last stream. Make sure to check that out as well after the stream's done. Follow us on Twitter at Talking Niners Pod. We should have a new episode coming out this week, so stay tuned for that. And as always, you got any questions, comments, concerns, make sure to leave them in the live chat below. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So let's start off with the tight end room. And looking at what we need in the tight end room, let's just say our biggest need right now. In my opinion, it's kind of what we needed a bit last year, a pass-catching tight end. And the reason I say that is because Jordan Reed, when he was on the field, even though he was a tight end too, he still made significant impact with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'll only say with Jimmy Garoppolo because the backup quarterbacks, he didn't really get it going. So, I think just a pass-catching tight end to replace Jordan Reed would be pretty good. I also say that because Ayush says right here, we need a new tight end one. Speaking of the tight end one, he had some dropping problems last season. Let's be real. I'm not gonna deny that, even though he's probably my favorite player on the team. I'm not gonna deny that he had some dropping problems last season. You always gotta have that security blanket in case someone's not performing. Just saying. Maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but I think a pass-catching tight end is our biggest need. I know we already have Ross Dwelly, who is a pretty good pass-catching tight end in my opinion, but I definitely think having two is better than one in my opinion. Also, I think Ross Dwelly provides a lot for the blocking game and is more of a Kittle replacement in case George Kittle gets hurt or something. So I think having a solely pass-catching tight end, someone kind of like that, obviously you're going to have to do a little bit of blocking, but a primarily pass-catching tight end, in my opinion, is the biggest need for this 49ers team.
I think personally it depends what we do at other positions. For example, Juice is a free agent, and towards the end of the season with Tevin Coleman out, we had no backfield blockers, and we had George Kittle in the backfield blocking, which is absolutely terrible because you can't have a top receiver in the league blocking the backfield on a crucial third or fourth down. So personally, I think it really depends what we do with Juice, which is kind of weird to say regarding tight end position. Maybe Charlie Warner, your guy, could move to fullback. Maybe bring back Juice.
I would not be surprised if that's the case. I think you need.
We do that.
Yeah, I actually think Ross Dwelly would be the better fullback because he's more of a pass catcher and can provide that blocking role. Charlie Warner is just a pure blocker. He didn't really have any pass catching experience in college, so I don't know if he's necessarily ready for that. I think if you are going to have a fullback to replace Kyle Juszczyk, if you want it, that could be Ross Dwelly. So I definitely think you're right about that. If Kyle Juszczyk doesn't return, if they want to use Ross Dwelly in that position, that's actually a very good point because now the offseason gets a bit more interesting. You're going to have to find somewhat of a Ross Dwelly replacement, and you're going to have to find a Jordan Reed replacement or something like that. Or we could bring Jordan Reed back, but I don't really know if that's going to be the case. Go ahead.
I don't think Jordan Reed's back at all. Him and Nick Mullins were like on a completely different page. I literally think they hated each other. There's times where they would Reed was yelling at him and a lot of off the field stuff.
Exactly.
You can tell. I don't think he's going to be back. There's a good amount of free agent tight ends. Jared Cook, he's older. Kyle Rudolph, Zach Ertz maybe gets cut. We could go that route. Maybe we draft a guy. Personally, I like Brevin. I think that's how you pronounce it. Brevin Jordan from Miami. He looks phenomenal. He's my personal tight end too. We would probably have to take him in the second round, third round, which probably isn't realistic. But I personally really like him, and if we want to go that route, we want to prioritize having a pass catcher, then he's a great option.
Yeah, so let's just move into like what we can do. So first of all, yeah, Jordan Reed. I mean, you kind of covered all I was going to say in that 5 seconds. So I'm going to go a bit slower about what you said. But Jordan Reed, in my opinion, is probably gone. And the connection with Nick Mullins is probably why. They were so off track, it looked like out there. And I mean, even though Nick Mullins is probably going to be gone, it's definitely concerning when a tight end is that off track with the quarterback. So, and I mean, and is in the same system. So I feel like, and there was enough time to do that. So I feel like Jordan Reed's probably gone. Also, you have the injury history. There's always that concern. He did have some injuries last season. So even though he did really well, bounce back, I definitely think it's time for him to move on. Now he kind of got his mojo back. I don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he retires. I know he considered retirement, but I do not think he's going to be a 49er. So that's my thing with Jordan Reed. All right, free agency. Again, kind of looking at what we need for a guy like Jordan Reed, a guy who can be a pass catcher. And I went a bit cheaper than you did, Joseph. I kind of looked at guys who you could sign for maybe $1 million. Obviously, the cap is just so limited this offseason. We don't know what's going to be the situation with that. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be such an interesting offseason once it starts. What moves we make right away, what we do. I mean, it's going to be interesting. But I think tight end is one position where you got to play it cheap. And 3 guys I see on the tight end market that are pass catching tight ends and are probably around the $1 million range. I'll start with the first 2 right now. Trey Burton and Richard Rodgers. I think Trey Burton I like a lot more than Richard Rodgers. Richard Rodgers is probably the cheapest out of all of them that I have out of the 2 out of the 3. Out of the 3, Richard Rodgers is probably the cheapest. But Trey Burton, he could be a bit on the higher side. He did have a really good season with Indianapolis. So I definitely think it would be very good to see Trey Burton in a 49ers uniform, helping out, being that tight end too, being a pass catching role, having that pass catching role on the team. So I definitely like him. The guy I really want is Gerald Everett of Los Angeles Rams. I know, and I don't know why this is. There's a lot of Rams guys that I have been targeting. I mean, you got Gerald Everett, you got John Johnson, you got Troy Hill. Those are 3 guys I all really want to be in Niners uniforms. But I mean, it will help the team. Knowing your opponent's scheme always going to give you an upper hand. So if you can snatch someone like that from a division opponent, you're doing really well. Gerald Everett, on the other hand, in my opinion, between him and Higbee, he is the better tight end. He is a tight end 1 caliber player, in my opinion, who could go for cheap, could be undervalued in the market. If we get a guy like Gerald Everett, I think it would really work out for this team. He could back up George Kittle, and then you have a 1-2 duo, pow, 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 boom, you're good.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I was actually going to bring up Gerald Everett. I only brought up Kyle Rudolph, Jared Cook, Zach Ertz, just for the fact that I was saying if we want to prioritize bringing in another target alongside George Kittle, maybe so we can block one, have both on routes alongside Ayuk and Debo, whatever it is, then those guys could maybe be a possibility. But I do agree that we will go cheaper there. Maybe we draft a later guy. I think Gerald Everett is probably the best possible option.
You know, you mentioned Kyle Rudolph. That's a name that I didn't even think about at first. I kind of forgot that Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
No, the reason I'm saying it is I actually think he's going to be pretty cheap. I mean, he hasn't been. Well, I mean, he's been the Minnesota tight end 1 for the past few years, but he's obviously been on the decline. I definitely think you can bring some veteran leadership, pass catching ability. I think the Niners would be a good place for him because I definitely think his tight end 1 days could possibly be over. It's going to depend. Again, I think Kyle Rudolph's a guy who it depends on how much other teams are willing to pay him. I think he could be really expensive. He also could be very cheap. So that's definitely another name to keep in mind, in my opinion, because Kyle Rudolph is a guy that I definitely think would help this team a lot, give that putting him in that pass catching role. So I think Kyle Rudolph would be a decent fit. So for sure. All right. You got anything else about free agent tight ends you want to mention? Any other names?
I just wanted to add another Indianapolis Colt. You said Trey Burton. I think Mo Alley Cox is another one we can look at. I believe he's an unrestricted free agent. Actually, I may be wrong about that.
I think I don't know. I'll have to check that out. But
I think I'm wrong. But yeah, he's a free agent. He's another guy we could look at. They have 3 tight ends there: Jack Doyle, Trey Burton, and Mo Alley Cox. 2 are free agents. I doubt they bring both back. So one's obviously going to be gone. We could be a destination for one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think Mo Alley Cox would be a good fit. That's on the very cheap side. And if you really want to go that route, I'm fine with it. Again, tight end, that's a position you need to keep cheap. So, I mean, as long as you get a cheap option who's pretty decent, I think you're doing fine. Mo Cox, the only thing that concerns me with him is I mean, he's kind of raw, underused by the Colts, in my opinion. They used him for a few weeks earlier in the season. Then they really focused on Trey Burton, which I think that's why Trey Burton's value could be a bit higher. They focused on Jack Doyle. They focused on their receivers. And I mean, that also could have been quarterback play. I really did not like the way Phillip Rivers played last year. I think he was just always on the decline, never set up for success there. So that could be another reason. Mo Cox, again, yeah, a cheap option, pass catching guy. I think that would be another good fit there. If you want to go really cheap, you look at him. There's obviously going to be some even cheaper options out there that I haven't even looked at. I really kind of looked at the guys who are notable names who would make a serious impact for this team. And that's why I mentioned those 4 guys. And then Mo Cox, I definitely think you can add on to that list as well. So I'm totally with you on that. All right, let's move on to the draft and what we can do at the tight end position in the draft. And Joseph, I'm going to start this off with you because I know you know a bit about tight ends in the draft, right?
I mean, a little bit. I was looking at mainly Brevin Jordan. I saw him a little bit, and I kind of watched like majority of Miami games just to watch him. So I didn't get to like the later round guys. I think he's a big sleeper. Not realistic, but if we want to prioritize that, and instead of getting a receiver, we get a tight end to complement George Kittle, we could go that route. But as far as the later guys, there's the guy from Duke. I'm kind of blanking right now. But there's the guy from Duke that we can get maybe in like 6th round.
What is his name? I know this guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I think you might have mocked him to us in like one of your mock drafts. I
have. Yes, I definitely mocked him.
He's pretty solid.
What is his name? Yeah, I mean, again, this is a guy. Tight ends is a position where I haven't looked at the back of the draft that much. So, what is his name? That's not him. Sorry, I'm just on Google right now trying to find his name. But yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at the back of the draft too much. 2021 draft. Let me look. Is there a guy? Noah Gray is his name.
Yes.
I believe. Yes, yeah. Noah Gray of Duke. That is a guy I've definitely heard good things about. I mean, the back of the draft, there's only one guy that I've really looked at, which I'm gonna get to in a second. But the only really guy, I think I've heard good things about Noah Gray. I've heard good things about the BC tight end, I believe. It might be BC. I don't know. Again, guys. I mean, I've looked for. I've really looked at I've really looked at the front of the draft with Kyle Pitts, Pat Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, those type of players. If you want a back of the draft guy, one guy that has really stood out to me, and this is when I was watching, not necessarily, but Trey McKitty out of Florida State, I believe, or Georgia. He transferred from one school to another. I forget which one, but that is a guy who's big, pass catcher, athletic, fast. That is a guy who could be, he could go very high in this draft, but I think I've seen him projected pretty low. So yeah, I really like Trey McKitty. There are some downsides to him. I'm trying to remember which it was either dropping or it was dropping, I think. I think there were some dropping problems. Again, with all the Florida State guys who are coming out, receivers, tight ends, you name it. There's not that many, but out of all of those guys, the quarterback play was just horrific there. So
were you watching Tamorian Terry?
Yeah, I've watched Tamorian Terry film. Yeah, I watched him too. Trey McKitty I focus on as well, but I think route running could be fixed up a little bit from Trey McKitty as well, from what I remember. I watched Trey McKitty a while ago, so it's not that fresh in my mind. If I can pull up my notes on it, maybe I'll figure it out, but that might be somewhere pretty far deep in my drive. So I don't know, but Trey McKitty, I just remember really liking him. That could be in the late round sleeper for the Niners to take. And also, I think he's at Georgia. He either transferred from Georgia to Florida State or vice versa, but Georgia tight ends. Last year, I liked the Georgia tight end, Charlie Warner. This year, could it be the same thing? I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to see. But yeah, Trey McKitty's a guy I definitely really like. Anyone else you want to talk about, Joseph?
I actually want to talk about 2 guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we go the possible trading up, getting Justin Fields, maybe you can get Jeremy Ruckert. He's pretty solid. Nothing like insanely special, but I think it's mainly just for the Fields-Ruckert connection. And then the second guy, Kyle Pitts. We are in an era of positionless football. If Kyle Shanahan likes him, which I bet he does. It depends if he wants to prioritize getting another weapon. I wouldn't really see him as a tight end. I'd see him more of like a wide receiver-ish guy. He's more of just he doesn't have a position really. So if we want to go that route, it's a possibility. Obviously, I think it's under it's not happening, but I wouldn't completely cross it out.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts, I actually wrote him down and then took him off. And the only reason I did that, it just doesn't seem that realistic at this point. I mean, if you want Kyle Pitts, you have to take him at pick 12.
Yeah.
And I don't think, first of all, he might not even make it to pick 12. I think Atlanta, if they don't trade down, I would not be surprised if Atlanta took him at 4. There's other teams up there I wouldn't be surprised if they took him. But yeah, I think Kyle Pitts is kind of out of the question, especially considering the fact that it seems like Garoppolo's at the door at this point. I think it's safe to say that Garoppolo's at the door. You've seen all the Patriots rumors. You've seen all the trade-up rumors. You've seen you see everything with the quarterback stuff right now. And we'll have to wait until the offseason to see what happens. I would not be surprised, guys. I would not be surprised, by the way, if the 49ers traded up during the first week of free agency. I think if you want to trade up to get your quarterback, it's going to be a competitive market. You for sure have to get past Carolina. New England could be coming up. Washington could be coming up. Chicago could be coming up. I keep saying cutting up. I don't know why, but coming up. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could come up. So I would not be surprised if the Niners just decide, hey, let's just get to 3 now. We're going to get either Justin Fields or Trey Lance, maybe Zach Wilson if he makes it. I would not be surprised if they do that. I mean, it's kind of hard without the combine. I don't even know if Kyle Shanahan has really seen the guys play that much. I mean, he definitely knows who Justin Fields is. He knows who Trey Lance is.
We know.
I don't know if he's.
Does.
Oh yeah, for sure. Adam Peters knows who they are. But I mean, I think Kyle Shanahan's going to have the final say on who the quarterback is. So yeah, that's my thing with that. So I mean, hopefully, I don't know if he's watching quarterbacks play right now. I don't know what he's doing in his life, but obviously, if he has been watching quarterback play, don't be surprised if the Niners make a trade up very soon to get into the top 3, top 4, top 5. Just get ahead of Carolina, whatever it is, you name it.
And I want to ask you, I'm kind of going back a bit, but I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your kind of logical reasoning of having Atlanta taking Pitts at 4? Because I think taking Pitts would kind of be like go another year with Matt Ryan, Julio, Ridley, right? Like or what?
I think the thing for Atlanta right now, I would probably go either Lance or Pitts. And reason being, I think Lance needs a bit of developmental work. So I think he can sit behind Matt Ryan for a year. So that's fine. Or you go Kyle Pitts and Matt, I personally, I think the Saints, not the Saints. I don't think the Falcons have a chance of making the playoffs, whoever their quarterback is, whoever they have on their team. So Pitts would be a good option. I know you have Julio Jones had a decline season last year. He's aging as well. You have Calvin Ridley, he's probably a wide receiver 1 for the future for them. And then at tight end, you had Hayden Hurst. And Hayden Hurst did not look that good last year. I definitely think they can move on for him. And I think Kyle Pitts would be a good fit to put in there. Give Matt Ryan another weapon, see what he can do for another year. You got a new head coach, which makes me feel like Lance would be a possible option. Maybe you wait on a quarterback. I don't know. Test it out with Matt Ryan because Matt Ryan, he was once an MVP caliber player. Yes, he's declined. Can he get back up to there? I don't know. It depends on how Arthur Smith is looking at Matt Ryan and everything else. And then a lot of people saying, oh, you need defense as their biggest need. There's just to say right now, there's no good edge there. There's no good cornerback. There's no good edge at 4. Cornerback, I think they're fairly set on that you could reach on a guy like Caleb Farley, something like that. I don't really know. Micah Parsons could be a possibility there. I've seen that teams might want him to play edge. So
yeah, I could see that definitely.
Yeah, that would be another possibility there at pick number 4. Personally, I think a trade back would be the best idea. Just trade back. I think you can get Pitts if you trade back. You can get Farley. You can get basically anyone except Trey Lance because I would assume if they traded back from 4, it would be for Lance. So I don't really know. But I think Kyle Pitts would make a lot of sense there. And looking at the draft order, I think the other places he would make a fair amount of sense. I think Philly would make a lot of sense. People are saying, oh, Philly, they already got Dallas Goedert. I know they're going to get rid of Zach Ertz, but they still have Dallas Goedert. But they like that 2 tight end set. It just didn't work out with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. I think Ertz is really a guy who should be an alpha tight end, which is also why I didn't put Zach Ertz on my list. I think Zach Ertz would not be the best fit here. I think he's better off being a tight end 1 and being really the alpha tight end in his system. So I don't know if Zach Ertz is really the best fit here. I know people are saying, oh, he went to Monte Vista. He's from the Bay Area. He went to Stanford. You have to throw that out the window. Football is a business. It doesn't matter where the player's from. They're going to come in here. and they're going to ball out wherever they're from, whoever they are. It doesn't really matter. So I don't think that really plays too much of a factor in Zach Ertz coming to the Bay. But actually, that could be ironic. We'll talk about someone later in offensive line who could have that same thing. But Philly could take him. But other than that, Cincinnati. Don't sleep on Cincinnati for taking him. If they don't go offensive line, let's say, I don't know if they're going to pass on Slater or not, but if Sewell's off the board, do not be surprised if they take a guy like Kyle Pitts. Joe Burrow loves those tight ends, targeting those slot receivers. So, yeah, that's my little ramble about where Kyle Pitts would end up. That he's probably the most interesting player in the draft because he could end up anywhere between 4 and maybe even like 23 of the Jets. It's crazy. I mean, his value, I think he'll probably go top 10, but it depends on how people are valuing tight end.
Just something small to poke fun at the Falcons topic. I believe, I don't know if it was the coach or the GM, they were on a show, and like you said, they could trade back for a guy like
Is this Pat McAfee?
I'm honestly not sure. It might be.
Okay, I know Arthur Smith was on Pat McAfee the other day. I didn't watch that though.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just heard it. I saw a small clip of it. I forgot what show it was on. It might be Pat McAfee.
Might have been Pat McAfee.
You could trade up or trade back, which, I mean, is it saying much? It's kind of a thing. It's like he's saying a lot without really saying anything. So,
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think right now, it's the offseason is, I mean, the offseason is always crazy. I think this one is going to be, there's so many, especially for the 49ers, that maybe that's how I'm looking at it, but there's so many moving pieces in the NFL. And the weird thing is, like, you have one position where there's so much depth at, and then you have like another position, I'll just, an example where there's so much depth at, I would say is probably like wide receiver and safety. I think those are two positions with a ton of depth in free agency. And I mean, and the draft too for wide receiver. And then you look at positions like quarterback and offensive line, there's like nothing there other than you got a lot of bridge quarterbacks. Yes, you got a lot of backups there, but no, you really only have one starting caliber quarterback in Dak, maybe Mitch Trubisky if you want to count two. And then at left tackle, which we're going to talk about in just a second, you really got Trent Williams and that's it. And that's why, do you want to move to tackle right now?
Yeah, we could.
All right, let's do it. So, I mean, exactly what I was saying. Trent Williams, really the only guy out there at left tackle. If you want to talk about a guy who you can start at left tackle right away in free agency, Trent Williams is the only guy out there, in my opinion. And there's a few others. I think you have Russell Okung, who's decent, not Trent Williams caliber. I mean, it's so crucial that you keep Trent Williams because, I mean, you can't replace him. It's that simple. The only guy who I think you can replace Trent Williams with is Penei Sewell, who I compared to Trent Williams for the draft, but that's obviously going to be it's going to be like a worse version of Trent Williams to start off. Maybe he'll get better soon. Also, we have to trade up to get him. No chance he falls to 12. So Trent Williams is a must. You have to keep him. And kind of going off of that fact right there, Trent Williams, what does he provide a lot of? Pass protection as well as run protection, but pass protection in particular, that is our biggest need for the 49ers in this offensive line, specifically on the right side. Right side last year, I mean, McGlinchey, I still find it amazing how you can be that good of a run blocker and that poor of a pass blocker. So, I mean, yeah, pass protection is the biggest need. And I think the best way to do it would be go to the draft, get a guy who can play right guard and right tackle, start him at right guard, then move him to right tackle if needed, have Bruntsville come off the bench. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now, but we'll talk about that a bit later. But pass protection is the biggest need. Obviously, I mean, you're looking to replace center, probably right guard, maybe left tackle if Trent Williams leaves. I think all those positions, you really got to focus on pass protection more than run protection because we struggled in pass pro so much last year.
Okay. So, like I said with Juice and Charlie Warner maybe moving tight end or fullback. This is another situation where it's more dependent on our quarterback situation. If we keep Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't see a world where we don't restructure his contract where Trent Williams is on the team. And that's a huge problem, and I'm honestly worried for the fact that it would be amazing if we pick Garoppolo over Trent Williams, but I wouldn't put it past us. Maybe we take Slater at 12, which I don't think makes much sense because you're downgrading at tackle, and then you obviously have Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback where you're paying him money that is honestly not deserved. So I say best case scenario is that we do re-sign Trent Williams and then we move up for a quarterback or trade for a guy like the one that must not be named, Sam Darnold, or maybe Teddy Bridgewater, but he is making a good amount of money. But I don't know. I think it really just depends what we want to do at quarterback situation. Hopefully we're able to trade up. It really depends. I think Shanahan has already made his decision whether we're trading up or not.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't necessarily know if that's the case if we're trading up or not, if he's made that decision. You obviously got to scout all your quarterbacks, do your due diligence, see what's up with that. But I just think by the way everything sounds, Garoppolo is gone. I'm not going to say it's safe to say that. I know I said that earlier, but I mean, I don't really know. There's been so many rumors flying around. One day it's Jimmy Garoppolo will be the starting quarterback. The next day is he's going to the Patriots. The one thing that I have seen, though, that makes me think he's gone, everyone who's like kind of talked about Jimmy Garoppolo has basically said Jimmy Garoppolo quit on the team one way or another. They've been saying like Jimmy Garoppolo helped out a lot on scout team. Jimmy Garoppolo could have come back. He chose not to prepare for next year. Or flat out Jimmy Garoppolo quit on the team. That's one thing that I've just heard all around. Just that Jimmy Garoppolo quit on the team. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan wants a guy like that on this team. So, I mean, it's that simple. You move him if he's going to quit on this team, you move him. It's that simple. So, yeah. And by the way, I know we're talking about quarterback right now, but quarterback has so much to do with what happens to guys like Trent Williams and which happens to the rest of the team. Because, I mean, you could be paying Garoppolo another $25 million, whatever he's being owned. And I mean, you might not get a guy like Trent Williams. And that's why I'm also saying that Sam Darnold will be a good option for this team because you have Trent Williams. I mean, if you get Sam Darnold, Trent Williams is probably coming back. Jason Verrett might come back. Kyle Juszczyk might come back.
And
I think that's huge.
Later.
What?
And then we can draft a guy like Slater and move him to guard or replacement Lynch.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying with Darnold because you get a cheap option, developmental guy. I mean, and you keep all the guys you have a fantastic all-around team. I mean, if Sam Darnold develops like the way I think he can, then I think it's going to work out really well. And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, Darnold's horrible. Just watch my video on Sam Darnold, why I think like he can work out here. Yes, it's a huge risk to put all your faith in Sam Darnold, but I think it's going to be worth it. I mean, you're kind of going for a long-term quarterback right here. This is really the offseason. You got to get your quarterback right now. You're not going for a short term. You got to get that long-term guy. If Darnold doesn't work out, so be it. You can get a guy next year in the draft. You can get a guy in free agency. I think the free agent class is a bit bigger next year for starting quarterbacks. I don't really know, but you can figure it out even if you don't have a guy. Even if Sam Darnold's performing really poorly, I think you can figure it out. And that's why I think Darnold would still be a good option. I know his name has kind of fallen out in a few weeks, but just keep that in the back of your mind as this quarterback process goes on. Sam Darnold always going to be an option for the 49ers, whether you like it or not.
And I want to say, Niners fans, don't be surprised if week one our quarterback is a guy like Sam Darnold, Mac Jones, or Mitchell Trubisky. Because if we want to keep Trent Williams, then we're going to either have to trade up in the draft or get one of those guys, which doesn't sound appealing, but that's the reality of it with paying Jimmy Garoppolo that money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's just move on. I know we've been talking a lot about Trent Williams, so let's just move on to like what's going to happen with our current free agents. We have 6 right now, and let's just start off with Trent Williams. Obviously, we both say he's a must-keep, top priority. My question for you, Joseph, is: are we actually going to get Trent Williams? Yes or no?
I don't know.
If you had to say right now, yes or no, just give me one of them.
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, it's so hard. I'm going to have to.
It can go either way. It's a coin flip.
It could go either way. It's so like the fact that he's testing the market. I think we all knew he would test the market. I'm gonna say yes. And the only reason I'm going to say yes is because, well, first of all, I'm biased, probably. That's probably why. Second of all, it's just like you don't have any replacement for him. There is no contingency plan for Trent Williams. If you want a left tackle, you get Trent Williams. That's it. It's end of the day. You have to get him, or else you're going to have to get a guy who is not as good as Trent Williams or does not fit the scheme as well. And then you might even have to you might have to waste draft capital. You might not have that ability to trade up in the draft. You might not have that ability to sign another guy, even if because now you have to fill other needs more importantly than left tackle. It's just going to, the ripple effect if Trent Williams leaves is going to be massive for us. Also, you gave up your third for him. So you want to have that third. You want to have that given up for a good reason. So yeah, Trent Williams is a must keep, top priority. Hopefully we get him, but it's so interesting what's going to happen. And I mean, we obviously talked about Darnold helping Trent Williams stay, in my opinion, but we'll see how that goes. All right, other 5 free agents that we have: Daniel Brunskill, Ben Garland, Hronis Grosso, is it Tony Bergstrom, I think, and Tom Compton. So looking at that, I think there's 3 guys that are just outliers in that: Grosso, Bergstrom, and Compton. I think all 3 of those guys are gone. They didn't really contribute at all. Yeah, I don't need to say much about that. And then Brunskill and Garland, I think you got to keep both of those guys. Brunskill's a restricted free agent, which is good. You can keep him. I also think you need to keep him for 1, security. 2, he's going to be cheap. Security because you might not have a right guard next year still. He might still have to play at right guard. He might even have to move to left tackle if Trent Williams leaves. So you got to keep that for a security blanket right there. Also, center, he could do that. But this is also why I think Ben Garland, we should keep him at center. I actually think, in my opinion, if I'm the 49ers, I'm starting Ben Garland at center because then you don't have to go out of free agency and overpay a guy like Alex Mack, Corey Linsley. You don't have to do that. You can keep Ben Garland, who, in my opinion, is a starting caliber center, and he does a good job game in, game out. You keep him. He does well. You save money at the end of the day because Ben Garland, in my opinion, is a guy who's going to go for cheap in this free agent market. I definitely think we're going to keep Ben Garland.
I don't know about that because I do think I was going to bring up Alex Mack. I do think we could get him relatively cheaper than we think we can. A huge problem that was said, I believe Garland said it, I may be wrong, was the communication on the line and that they don't have a line caller, whatever it's called, on the O-line, like a leader on the O-line. So I do think Alex Mack would be perfect. He's a Shanahan guy. I think he could fit perfectly, and we do need that leader, and he could be that guy. I do think it would be surprising if we bring back let's say a very similar O-line that we had last year regarding the problems we did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you on that. Honestly, I definitely think, I mean, Alex Mack, it all depends on how much he costs. That's the big thing with Alex Mack. And I know, obviously, he's definitely stands out as a name. He's a Kyle Shanahan guy. But, I mean, cost is going to be huge. And the way the 49ers are going to move their money around is going to be very interesting because center, in my opinion, is not the biggest need if you got a guy like Ben Garland, who, in my opinion, can start at center. If you want to bring a guy like Alex Mack, go for it. But you just got to make sure you fill the needs where you don't really have a replacement option like left tackle, cornerback, quarterback. I mean, quarterback, you have replacement options, but you're probably going to want to get rid of him. And then edge at speed rusher too. I mean, you kind of have backup options for that, but they're not as good as a guy like D Ford, maybe some other free agency guys. Check out the video on Thursday that I did with Kobe. We talked a lot about that. So, yeah, but Alex Mack, I think in my opinion, it all comes down to cost for him. As for other free agent centers, I think one guy who I think Corey Linsley, a lot of people have been saying him. I think he's going to be a bit too expensive for this team. So I don't think we're going to get him. And then another guy who you could look at is Ted Karras from the Miami Dolphins. I think he would be a guy who's fairly cheap, a decent center, not the best, but decent overall. And I mean, there's other guys in this class. I need to look at it, but it's a fairly deep center class from what I've seen. Alex Mack and Corey Linsley top that list, but I think Alex Mack is probably the best fit for this team. So we'll have to see if we want to go that round free agency.
I'm gonna have to agree with you. I do think Corey Linsley is out of the picture, especially if we bring back Trent Williams. If we don't bring back Trent Williams and we get Corey Linsley, I think that's going to be kind of weird. Corey Linsley isn't close to the type of caliber that Trent Williams is. Yet again, you are going to be paying him. I'd rather fill in the center role with a rookie like Creed Humphrey than filling in Trent Williams with a guy like Slater.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I mean, I think it works out either way, but I mean, money is really going to come down to how we're going to pay the new guys in this offensive line. So. Yeah. All right. And then as for left tackle, it's so hard to do that with left tackle. I mean, I said Russell Okung, but you can't replace Trent Williams in free agency. And that's why I would prefer, if Trent Williams does leave, I would prefer the draft to do that, because then you could get a guy who possibly has Trent Williams' caliber. So, yeah, I'm totally with you right there. So, I mean, yeah, Trent Williams, it's just so hard to replace him. It's really Russell Okung is the only thing relatively, not even relatively close, but the closest option to Trent Williams. So, yeah.
The reason I said I don't think we get Trent Williams is just for the fact that I have a gut feeling. I am kind of being pessimistic just so I don't get my hopes up. I have a feeling that Jimmy will be back. It isn't logical. It doesn't make sense at all, but I do think that is something that Shanahan and Lynch will somehow pull off. I do think the best situation would be to re-sign Trent Williams, cut Jimmy Garoppolo, free up cap space, trade up for a rookie, preferably Fields, Lance. Maybe we take Mac Jones at 12.
Something like that. Yeah. And I mean, Eric says it right here. Trenton's not coming back unless we cut Jimmy. And I'm totally with him on that. I mean, you're paying Jimmy a lot of money. You got to free up that cap. You're going to free up a lot of cap once that happens. I mean, I think we're at 21 million right now. I think you cut him, you can get a lot more. Then you have room to sign him. You have room to sign other guys. So it's going to work out if you cut Jimmy Garoppolo. The thing is, you have to make a decision within the next week about what you're doing with Jimmy Garoppolo. Are you going to move on for him? Are you not? Because if he's on your team soon, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I bet they're trying to trade him right now. I wonder if he gets traded in this next few weeks. I know New England wants him. I bet teams aren't budging because they know the Niners want to cut Jimmy Garoppolo, and they're going to before they get a deal done. So the only way that a team would trade him is, the only way a team would trade him is because they're desperate for a quarterback. New England I think New England would make the most sense for him, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Eric also mentions Teron Armstead right here. Do you think that would be a good option?
Would it be a good option? Yes. Is it likely? Not at all. I don't think there's a world where we are able to get Armstead. And I think at that point, I think it makes more sense to keep Trent and get rid of Jimmy, which is kind of like the outlier of what we've been saying is like, we have to have Jimmy gone, which we're kind of just going in circles because it's really just Garoppolo or Williams, and I think we can all make that decision.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And Teron Armstead, that could be a guy. If he's cut, then I think it could be too expensive. His contract's also pretty big right now, so we'll have to see what happens with that. I definitely think, they're over the cap in New Orleans, which I think they're going to have to do. They're going to do some restructuring with everything. They're going to trade some guys. They're going to have to figure it out. But Teron Armstead, it again comes down to a money game. If Trent Williams leaves, honestly, take a shot at Teron Armstead because he's going to be in the same price range as Trent Williams. So it's going to work out either way. So I definitely think that would be a good option for the 49ers. The likelihood of that is going to be interesting. So it's going to be interesting to see who New Orleans decides to cut because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of cap casualties in New Orleans. So we'll have to see what happens with that. So, yeah. You got anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add real quick. We will figure out. Right now, everything's really uncertain and the future's uncertain. But after re-signing period, after free agency, we will have a clear picture of what will be to happen, especially in the draft. Right now, we're kind of guessing. If we don't bring back Trent Williams, I think it's fair to say Garoppolo's probably staying and we go Slater. If we re-sign Trent Williams, Garoppolo's probably gone, and we're going to get a guy like Fields, Lance, or Mac Jones, most likely. Or maybe Trubisky or Darnold or et cetera.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. So I think there's a lot of dominoes that are about to fall, just waiting to fall right now. The first few days of free agency, man, that's going to be fun because I think that's where you really just see the outline for this team, who's coming back. Trent Williams should be gone by day one to some team, or he re-signs with the 49ers. We'll have to see what happens, but yeah, going to be a very interesting offseason with all that.
I think Trent Williams might play smart, and he's going to play it out. I think we will have to wait a few days to see where he goes.
If he plays it out, that would be ideal for us because then you have more time with Garoppolo. You have more time with everyone else. You can build a team around. You can just build the team other places and then say, hey, look what we built right here. This is where we're going forward. This is something you want to be a part of. Do you want to come back? I think that would be if Trent Williams decides to do that, I think that would be ideal for the 49ers. I think you don't want that situation where he's going to be gone day one because then you kind of have to rush everything. So, I mean, I definitely think, yeah, that is ideal for the 49ers if he waits it out. We know he's going to test the waters probably. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But waiting it out would be ideal for the 49ers. If he can sign in like late March rather than the first day or first week, that would be ideal for the 49ers.
Well,
so, yeah,
the reason I said that is because I think that obviously he wants to test the market, but also we know he most likely wants to stay here. So I do think that there's a possibility that he waits it out just to kind of hold leverage and maybe gain some more money or something. And because he could, obviously, there's going to be multiple teams interested and willing to throw money. And I do think there's a possibility that he's going to try to use that to his advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Totally with you on that. So, yeah. All right. Let's move on to the draft. Talk about the final guys. And I'm going to start with, I think if you want a guy who can start right away, you're obviously looking at round 1, round 2. In my opinion, this is a pretty deep draft class, so I would not be surprised if we definitely. I think O-line we could definitely take round 2, get a good guy. I think if you look at round 1, round 1 and round 2, there's definitely a lot of guys. I'm going to name 5 right now, or sorry, 4 right now that can play. If they can go left tackle, maybe swing to the right side. Besides one of them, so Rashawn Slater, in my opinion, the second best offensive lineman in the draft. So I'll have all their rankings up too. So Rashawn Slater is my offensive lineman number 2. Or sorry, tackle number 2. I listed them all as tackles because they can all play tackles. So that's what I got right now. But yeah, I think Rashawn Slater would be a good fit here. You can stick him in that right guard, move him to right tackle. If Mike McGlinchey's not doing that well, he's a fantastic pass blocker, really holds a stance. I think he could be a very good player in this league. So I definitely think that's my number 2 guy. My number 3 guy right behind that, and in my opinion, he's actually a better fit for the 49ers. Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. My tackle number 3, he can play guard. Right guard would be a fantastic fit for him. If Slater and Vera Tucker are very similar. I just think Slater's probably a bit better than Vera Tucker, but they can both do the same things on the field, similar things on the field. So that's definitely something to watch right there. Tevin Jenkins is my tackle number 4. I think in college he was a swing tackle, but he's also telling teams he can play right guard. So maybe they move him to right guard. I don't really know. But again, the Trent Williams replacement, in my opinion, the best Trent Williams replacement in the draft is Penei Sewell. But most reasonable for us is Sam Cosmi out of Texas. My tackle number 5 really holds the stance really well. I really like what I saw from Sam Cosmi. He has first-round talent written all over him, but could fall to the second round because all the Texas coaches are gone. So there's a very good possibility we could trade up for a guy like Justin Fields and then get Sam Cosmi later on, which would be an insane draft for the 49ers. And that's only if Trent Williams leaves. If Trent Williams stays, you don't even need to worry about Cosmi. You go for a guy like Slater, Vera Tucker, or Tevin Jenkins. So those are some guys right there at tackle. At center, center's interesting. I really only listed the 3 guys. I think Landon Dickerson is by far and away the best center in this draft. The injury concerns might bring him down to round 2, round 3. Usually he should be a round 1 prospect in my opinion, but he's going to be the injury concerns. he tore his ACL, I believe. So that's going to bring him down a little bit. Creed Humphrey, in my opinion, number 2. And then number 3, I have Quinn Miners out of Wisconsin Whitewater. All 3 would be valuable options in my opinion to start for this team. So yeah, I'm definitely, I would take those. Again, I would rather have Garland starting at center, but we'll have to see what happens with that. But those are all my draft options for the 49ers, I think.
Everyone's talking about what we're going to do with our first-round pick. Are we taking Slater? Are we taking Darisaw? Are we going to trade up for a guy like Fields, Lance? Or you can take Mac Jones? But I think the most important thing of this draft is our second pick. Just for the fact that I think this is such a deep draft. And I don't want to guarantee things. But if we don't go O-lineman round 1, I'm going to say there's a 99.9% chance we take O-lineman round 2. There's guys like
absolutely
Cosmi. I like him. Like you said, the Texas coaching staff. He could be a guy that falls. Jalen Mayfield. I'm not a huge fan of him. He's more of a prospect pick, but he could be a guy that could be there. Creed Humphrey, Landon Dickerson, Deontay Brown. He's a giant guy. And he can move pretty well. So I think that we will go O-line round 2, and that's a very important pick.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think, yeah, round two is going to be interesting to see what you do. I mean, round one, yes, you have offensive line. Oh, round one, you can probably go quarterback. Round two, I think you're probably looking at between offensive line or cornerback. Maybe edge. I think edge you probably address in free agency. Get that starting guy, get a speed rusher, as I talked about last video, then go for the later round guys later on. But yeah, round two, I think it's going to come down to cornerback or offensive line. My guess would be offensive line because the 49ers value the trenches more than they do on cornerback. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens round two. But I think that's where you're probably looking at. Some of those guys might fall round two. If you want some round two guys, Liam Eichenberg, probably a left tackle candidate you can look at. Alex Leatherwood, I don't necessarily know is the best fit for the 49ers, but he's a swing guy. So that's another guy keep an eye on. Maybe Tevin Jenkins falls to round two. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. I know he's been skyrocketing up boards, but yeah, that's all I really got to say for the draft. You got anything else?
I don't think cornerback is something that we look out round two. I may be wrong, but I just think that we kind of have a past of not taking corners early in the draft. I do think that we will probably re-sign Verrett, go rookie. My bad. We will go free agency for our corner two. Maybe bring back Spoon. He looked pretty good. And then maybe go rookie round 4 or 5 for like the slot guy to bring in to fill in for K'Wan Williams. So I really do think it's going to be guard or, well, I don't think tackle because if Trent Williams is gone, it will be Slater first round. So I'm going to say I do think it's going to be guard or center second round.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good fit. Wyatt Davis, another guy round two that you could look at guard. The guard class is not that deep. You're really looking at a lot of swing guys for guards. So we'll have to see what they do with that. But yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So for sure. You got anything else you want to say?
Not really. I think our ideal offseason for O lineman and tight end is probably to sign a veteran pass catcher for a tight end. Bring back Trent Williams, Garoppolo gone, go quarterback round 1, Mac Jones, Fields, Lance, and then go a guy like Creed Humphrey, White Davis, whatever, Deontay Brown, whoever you want to fill in at round 2. And I do think Garland, like you said, run skill, I think that would be a great offseason.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I think my ideal here, let me just give you my ideal tight end in offensive line room. My ideal tight end room is I would go Kittle, Everett, Dwelly, and Warner. My ideal offensive line, I'm just going to say the starters because I don't really the backups you always have, like there's going to be some random guys in free agency, so you don't really know what's going to happen there. But starting offensive line, Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, Ben Garland. Because we're going to go quarterback round 1, I'm going to say who? I'll go Brunskill. He did fine at right guard last year. And I think we could go cornerback round 2. So I'll say that if they want to go draft, I would prefer Tevin Jenkins. I think you can put him in that role round 2. If you want to do that, I think that's definitely worth it. And then I'll go at right tackle Mike McGlinchey. So that's my ideal offensive line tight end room right there. So yeah, that's what I would say right now. All right. You got anything else you want to say before we finish up?
I think that's it.
Perfect. All right. I just want to bring up this one comment right now. Sam Darnold. Okay. That's going to do it for the stream, guys. That's all I really got to say. So we finally got done with the offseason positional preview. All of that done. 5 episodes. We're ready to go in the offseason now. So go back, watch all of them. So yeah, man, go back, watch it. As Vish says, go back and watch it, boys. Exactly. Do it there. Do it there. Do it now. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Go Niners.